Hello, NAAIA community. Get ready to relive insightful discussions, gain fresh perspectives, and be inspired by the wealth of knowledge our community has to offer. Let's dive into another episode.
Yes, I am super excited to be here with all of you for this Agent Roundtable, and very fittingly so, while we're still in March, so we're celebrating Women History Month still. We've got some fantastic panelists, as Jeff mentioned. Some are still joining, but we do have with us Dr. Sarah Benson. So I'll ask her to come on camera, join me on here. And so Sarah is a State Farm agent. So I will give her a moment to kind of walk through how she got into it, and then we'll kick off this conversation. So, Sarah, let the people know who
Hi,
you
every
are, how you did it.
Hi, everyone. As she said, my name is Sarah Benson, and I am a State Farm agent. The State Farm process is very competitive. State Farm owns the whole book of business. They own everything. So if you're interested in becoming a State Farm agent, first and foremost, you need to find a recruiter, apply, go through their preliminary exams that they give you. It's kind of like a little psychological exam they give you to see if you're a salesperson, how your management style, et cetera, et cetera. If you pass that, then you move on to the next level. And there's a whole module of courses that you have to go through and pass. Once you pass those courses, then you're what they consider to be business plan ready, and you submit a business plan, a fictitious business plan. You have no idea where it's going to be. You may be given a zip code, but you'll do a business plan. And when there's an opportunity available, you will get selected to present your business plan. And I competed against internal State Farm employees, and I was the only external person, and they chose me.
Fantastic. The competitive nature of it, it makes a lot of sense because, carriers more and more, are very intentional about who they allow to represent them in the marketplace and the communities, making sure that, from a compliance standpoint. Now, you mentioned as far as being an external candidate coming into the process, can you share a little bit about what your agency life looked like, what you did before you took this position with State Farm?
Yes, I'm what they call an external agent because I had no State Farm experience at all. I had never worked for State Farm. I didn't know anything about the system. Um, I worked for other carriers throughout my career. To name a few: New York Life, Mutual of Omaha, Allstate Financial Services. But it was strictly financial based. On the P&C side of the house, I had no experience other than being in those offices. So I had to learn that. So when the opportunity presented itself, I had to compete against potential agents who had lots of P&C experience, but I had lots of financial services experience. So that gave me the edge.
Exactly. And in addition to some of your prior work history, your education background as well, you were sharing lines on the financial services side. Is that right?
Yes.
So, going into agency is always an interesting endeavor. There's a lot that, we do that helps to support our communities, families, businesses. It's all about helping people make the best decisions in order to understand, what their exposures are and then find solutions to match those products that are going to be able to help them bounce back if something happens. As far as the customers that you have, how did you, as you moved through the process with State Farm, how did your book of business come to be? Is that something that was given to you? Did you start it from scratch? What did that journey look like?
Well, with State Farm, there are two opportunities to have an existing book of business or to have a scratch agency, a new market. I was awarded a book of business. The agent retired after 47 years, and I was given a portion of his book. They don't give you the whole thing because you have to work and grow and develop your own book. And so I developed the customers and clientele that he had, and I had to earn their business because they did not know me. They didn't know who I was. They knew a name, but they didn't have a relationship with me. So I had to develop a relationship with those customers that chose to give me an opportunity. And I had to build my own customer base with new customers.
That makes sense. And so just a disclaimer, this is not an infomercial for one particular, program. We're just really kind of having the conversation about the captive route versus the independent route and some of the considerations and things that go into that. And so as a captive agent with State Farm, are you a contractor with State Farm? Are you an employee? What does that relationship look like?
I am a independent contractor. I'm a 1099. I am contracted to present and sell State Farm uh, products. All of the team members that work for me work for me. They are not employees of State Farm.
Got it. And that brings up another good point, as far as staffing is concerned. So they work directly for you. So they're not corporate employees. So they don't participate in, the big corporate benefit package, 401k, pensions, and all that. So how have you been able to grow and retain and attract, good staff to come work with you in your agency?
Well, it's been a journey. My first year was horrible. I hired new team members. They knew nothing about State Farm, as did I. Um, and they it just didn't work. This is a sales. When you're in this environment, it's a sales position. Not everyone is able to be competitive in sales, so that didn't work. But through attrition and through learning, I had to learn what motivates each one of my team members. Once
Hmm.
I learned what motivated them, and I could show them what was in it for them, whether it's financial, whether they wanted the recognition, then it became easier to develop a team. We sat down and we developed our core values for our agency. And this was not something I decided, it was what they as a team wanted us to have as our values. Then we developed our goals. These are the goals that we're going to work on as a team this year. And once we were able to collectively come to the table with that, we developed a really nice team. In motivating them, I have some team members that are motivated strictly by money. So
Yeah.
they have a base pay and they get commission and I give them bonuses and they love that. I have other team members that like the recognition. They want to know, hey,
Mm.
I'm the employee this month. I did this, so they like the recognition. One of the things that I've done for my team members, I'm sending them on a cruise because
Oh.
of the work we did last year. We had a goal to meet, and while we worked really hard, we met one of our goals. The other we met, but there were some numbers that the company didn't count. So I'm still sending
Mm-hmm.
them on a 4-day cruise to the Bahamas. One
Oh,
set's going
wow.
in April, the other's going in May.
That's amazing. And so being able to be the captain of the ship, if you will, because you are the employer, you get to help establish the culture, the things that are in place for your office. Hiring is also completely up to you. So when it comes to, giving new talent a chance and bringing people into this industry, very much so for the first time, oftentimes, what percentage of the staff that you have is, were already in the industry versus those that you recruited into the industry?
Um, 1% was already in the industry. One of the reasons I wanted to be an agent is because I wanted to be in a position where I could give an opportunity to someone who really wanted it. So most of my team members are brand new to the insurance industry. Right now, as we speak, I have two team members who are in school. They're going through the insurance course right now. They started Monday and they'll go this week. They've been taking their practice exam, and then hopefully next week they'll take their exam. But I was looking for people who needed an opportunity. I found that um, our folks don't go into the insurance industry because they don't necessarily know, and
Mm-hmm.
knowledge is bliss. So I felt like if I could educate, because there's things that I learned through the companies that I
Absolutely.
work with. So I wanted to be able to give someone an opportunity if they wanted to be an agent. I'll help them. Not everyone wants to be an agent, but it's a wonderful career versus a job.
That's amazing. So you mentioned, like you said, giving people an opportunity, inviting them in personally, and making their first insurance experience a positive one. It sounds like what you're offering as an independent agent. How do you find someone who? What kind of temperament or skill set do you think is really relevant for those that you're recruiting from outside of the industry?
Well, when we sat down as a team, we looked at our core values. Um, we wanted someone who, first of all, was honest, want loyalty. I'm former military, so loyalty is very important to me. Wanted someone who had um, that desire, that
Mm,
desire to right. You want to get out there and you want to work and you want to be the top. Now everyone's going to be the top, but you
mhm.
want to strive for that. So I was looking for someone, or I'm looking for people who are coachable because that's real important. Are you willing to learn?
That's good.
We don't know everything, but are you willing to allow me to share with you the little bit that I know and help you get to the next level?
That's awesome. So, are these people that are referred to you out in the community that you do business with? Like, where have you been able to successfully? Because that's always a struggle, right? In the marketplace when people are looking for jobs and to choose to work for an independent contractor versus a corporate position. I know that's a issue that a lot of agencies may face, and so I'm just kind of curious as far as are you just finding people on the street, the college campuses? Like, where do you look for staffing?
All of the above. The people that I have now, sometimes they're right in front of you. One of my team members who's going through training right now. Um, when I worked for another company, I did all her investments, and when I came over to State Farm, I tried to get her to come with me, and she's very loyal to where she was, and we talked, and then she decided a couple of weeks ago she wanted to sit down with me, so I was able to bring her investments over to me. But we talked for years. I had been trying to get her to come and work with me after she retired. And so I said, I need you. Let's sit down and talk. I need you to help me manage my office. And she said, okay. So now she's in training. The other person I have in training, she's a young man who every day we call everybody on our birthday list to wish them a happy birthday and to remind them that we can give you a free life insurance quote. And he answered the phone. He came in. We sat down. We talked about the importance of life insurance, and I gave him various quotes. I ended up writing a policy for him, and he was so inquisitive about what we did and how we do it and how do you become an agent and so forth.
Mm,
I said, well, let me give you my card, come back and we'll talk. I really didn't expect him to come back, but he called back, he came in and we talked some more. And I said, I really didn't think he was. And he said, I'm really interested. And I said, okay, this is what we'll do. I said, I usually will send team members to the course. I pay for it, but in the past, that's not been a very good experience. I said, so you pay for it first. Once you finish the class and you pass, I will reimburse you. He said, Miss Sarah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I really didn't think he was going to come back. He came back Friday, paid for his course. He's in the course right now, and I think he's just going to be wonderful because he's got that desire to succeed. He's got that desire to learn.
that's awesome. I know early on, even like you said, going through the course, I've always said that being in the industry has not just made me a better professional, but it's made me a better consumer. Because I think the first thing that you do is you look internally once you understand how things work, and then you become kind of an evangelist of the product, right? Because once you are able to reassess your situation, it makes it that much easier to share that news with others. Because what we do is not these are not just I don't want to call them fluff products, but these are very necessary. And to your earlier point, I think in our community, having these conversations, it really is helpful to be of the community, embedded in the community, so we can have these very frank and direct conversations about you need, to make plans for hopefully the unimaginable. And so, as someone whose background has been, again, you are a financial, guru.
No,
How
professional.
How do you make those conversations plain to the families and the individuals that you have in your agency?
Well, I tell real life stories. Unfortunately, especially on the financial side, I've had to do too many death claims.
Mm,
And so I know what happens when you're not prepared. I've seen what happens when people are prepared. While they're grieving, it always helps when some money's coming along with that process. And so we have those real life conversations. Things happen. And the worst thing, and I tell a story. I have a story about a young man who came in my office when I was with another company, and we talked. And I said, I was a financial specialist for another company. I said, we need to sit down and talk. I said, you've got all this stuff. You got your auto, you got your home, but we need to talk about your life insurance. And he said, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. And I said, one of the things we need to talk about is disability. What happens if something happens to you? I noticed you ride a motorcycle. He said, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. Well, time passed. 2 weeks later, his wife came and she called the office and wanted to know if he had a life insurance policy because he had gotten killed on his motorcycle
mm.
coming home. So I tell real life stories about that. And luckily so, he didn't have life insurance, but we had some other stuff in place that she was able to access because at that point she had no access to his checking account or anything else because her name was not on it.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I try to share real life stories.
And so one of the things, of course, as people navigate the decision to go the captive route or independent route, and again, we're not here to do an infomercial endorse or get into any of the proprietary info when it comes to the relationship. But what kind of support do you get, just very high level, from the carrier as a captive agent?
As a captive agent, we get support with marketing. Our marketing activities are some of them are subsidized, and they subsidize things like marketing on billboards, marketing with Google reviews, marketing with um, companies to help support our Instagram or our Facebook page or even LinkedIn. All those things are supported through subsidy. One of the other things that they give us as a captive agent is we have agent marketing event funds. So I get a chance to participate in community activities and they're reimbursed up to a certain amount. So I try to use those money to support activities within the community for people.
Amazing. So we have a question from one of our attendees in regards to long-term care. And so the question is, what are your thoughts on long-term care insurance? Someone had posted on Instagram about it. And long-term care, as we know, is one of those very selective products that depending on someone's current health and condition, and working within minority communities, how important do you feel that conversation is, and how accessible do you feel like that product is, especially in the underserved communities?
First of all, I love long-term care. I'm CLT certified. So when I was with another carrier, I sold a lot of long-term care policies. Uh, we presently do not sell long-term care coverage, but one of the things that I talk to my customers, clients about is looking at some of the insurance products that have the long-term care rider on them so that you can use in the event you need to access that. I found that in our community, we're not experienced with long-term care. We've
Mm,
not had that discussion with very many people. So when something happens within uh, our community, it's usually someone in the family that has to take care of that person. And if
yes.
that person works, well, that's another layer of stress on the family. Long-term care, assisted living, preparing for that, that's very important. But we don't have enough people to have those discussions with our folks.
Agreed, agreed. And so, being, of course, a captive agent with State Farm, you have access to all of the lines of business, and so you're able to. How much of your current clientele has just a single policy versus the ones that are rounded out and have multiple um, excuse me, lines of business with you?
I would say probably 75% of my book of business have multiple lines with me. Those that have single lines, those are usually the ones that will leave. So we always try to get another line of business with them, whether it be financial, whether it be if they've got single line auto, we try to get renters or some other line, because that's how you keep the clientele, and that's how you're able to have additional conversations with them about finances, et cetera, et cetera.
Wonderful. And Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us. I know that we
Hi,
had some
Cynthia.
technical difficulties getting on, but I will let
Yes.
you introduce yourself, where you are, where you're located, and kind of how you got into your current role.
Okay. Well, good morning, all, and good afternoon to those on the East Coast. um, Cynthia Bailey Washington. I am agency owner of the Bailey Agency in Flowood, Mississippi. I am a captive agent, of course, for Allstate, an exclusive agent for Allstate. And I got into the business after a 21-year career with another company where I wasn't technically in the insurance industry, but I helped various Fortune 500 companies mitigate their losses. So I had been recruited for years by, the big insurance companies. And after doing some research, I decided COVID, everybody started making changes, right? It was time for me to step out on faith and do what I do. So I decided to joined the Allstate family, and I purchased a book of business. I actually purchased two books of business for gentlemen that were retiring. And my whole goal was to get into the industry. And as Sarah mentioned earlier, there is so much that our community doesn't know about
Mm,
insurance.
hmm.
They've just been paying for it year after year because someone told them they needed it. And so my goal was to become a resource for my community and just share with them what insurance can do for us.
Amazing. Yeah, we were having the discussion about, the impact and the special position of being able to service our communities as that resource. And so we started talking about staffing in terms of how do you find, qualified staff that to invite along on this journey with you. So do you mind sharing a little bit about what your, staffing experience has been and strategy?
Yes. So all of my team, when I started out, they were brand new. I paid for a couple of individuals to go through a boot camp process of being licensed. Fortunately, those employees are still with me today. And one of the young ladies, through the hiring process, I used a company called Team Hired to basically gather individuals, a pool for me to look at and, give a nod to or say, no, I'll pass on that person. They did all the groundwork for me because at the time I was still transitioning from my previous employer because I stayed on as a consultant for a while. So I built a team. Now, the full team that started out with me isn't with me today, but fortunately, the individuals who I paid for to be with me and to go through schools, those individuals are. Those were my hardest workers. They producers. They are committed. And when I selected those individuals, I selected them based on their hustle, their
Mm,
grind. They had points to prove things. There was one young lady, she had made some mistakes in life. And when I asked her why she wanted to go down this road, she said because she wanted to show her daughters there was another way.
mm, that's powerful.
And she had been passed on for corporate America jobs because of her history. And I said, well, you know what? If you ride with me, I'll ride with you. So she is awesome, and she's committed, and she wants to learn, and she wants to grow. The other individuals that came to me, they were already licensed, had worked for online companies, and they were looking for structure.
Mhm.
So we were able to give them structure, bring them in, utilize some of the educational tools that Allstate has to offer, and they're committed to the program. My office manager, on the other hand, I found her in church. She
Okay.
had we've attended the same church, and I knew she was retiring. And I said, "Hey, I know you want to retire, but I need somebody to help me run my ship. Can you please?" And she thought about it. She came on board, and she's been a blessing.
That's amazing. And I know Sarah had mentioned, again, bringing someone kind of quasi out of retirement, to come back in, because that institutional knowledge is amazing, and having individuals that have been around the sun a couple times, seeing things get better and
Right.
get worse. And
Mhm.
so one of the questions that we have from our attendees says, how do you manage to stay competitive and bring in or retain clients considering the hard market that we're in, as a captive agent versus an independent who has the ability to shop around, so to speak? So as far as retention goes, how have you been navigating these difficult times?
Yeah, we're definitely in a hard market, but what I train my people and what we talk about on a day-to-day basis when we're talking to our customers or prospecting customers, we talk about the advantage of our most valuable asset, the agent,
Mhm.
the individual, that producer, the person you can actually pick up the phone and call, or if
Hmm.
you so choose, walk in that door and talk to about the things that you have going on versus having someone on the internet who, yes, you may get a cheaper rate, but are you going to be able to get in touch with them? Are you going to be, what are you to them? How are they going to help you with your claim should you need to file one? Are they just selling you something, or are they talking with you and educating you on the product and learning you and providing you with options on things that you need versus selling a product? So I
That's
think
good.
that's the value that we bring to the table, and that's how we stay competitive.
Now, for
Do you agree,
me,
Sarah? Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. In my agency, our motto is going the extra mile is called service, and we really live by that because the carrier that I work with, every mile there's an agent that looks like me and the carrier's name. I mean, under the carrier's brand, and so I had to make sure that I stood out from the other State Farm agents that are a mile away from myself. And the way we do that is by providing services to our customers. And as Cynthia said, we're the best asset for our agency as the agent. Customers know that they can reach us. I have customers who will call and they only want to talk to me, but that's all right. I'm the agent. I can't always answer every call, but I am their agent. So we're the best commodity for growing our agency and retaining our customers.
That's a good point. And so we have another question from our attendees. Says, what's the viability and or legitimacy of pet insurance? And is there any longevity in that? Do either of you ladies have that offering in your portfolio?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Well, it depends on whether or not you're truly going to use it, and what kind of pet you have, how dedicated you are to the care of that pet. It can be useful. I myself, I had a fur baby and did not have, and this was prior to, being an agent, I did not think that pet insurance was going to be, worth anything until my baby got sick and those bills started coming in and I started wishing I
Mhm.
had insurance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does mitigate and cut into that cost that you're paying out. You just have to know your breed and of pet and make sure that you're not just buying something. Make
Mhm.
sure
Mhm.
it's what you need.
And
Agreed. No.
I agree. I agree. I have an adopted dog that we rescued, and I did not have pet insurance, and we spent a fortune because she developed cancer shortly after we adopted
Ooh.
her. But she's fine now, but thousands of dollars later, she's doing really good. But on the other hand, my daughter has a multiple, and he got bitten by a little spider, and we
Oh,
had pet
no.
insurance for him. So when he went to the emergency veterinarian clinic, they were able to provide the necessary service for him, and it's a reimbursement system. I paid, I
Right.
got reimbursed.
Got it. Got it. Now, Cynthia, you made a comment a little bit ago about um, well, I think Sarah, it was actually your comment about, agents, every other block that you said look like you in terms of the same company banner. But let's talk about the presence of Black agency owners in the captive space. Cynthia, you mentioned that you bought the agencies that you acquired.
Mhm.
Talk to us a little bit about that transition. Was the agent before you also someone from our community? How was that received? Kind of what did that process look like for you?
Okay, just history on those two books. One of the books I bought, agent looked like us, and he had owned that book, built it from scratch, 35 years. Okay, so on top of the process of getting to Allstate, you don't just buy a book, you apply, you have to, the books you're looking at purchasing, you have to present a full business plan on what you intend to do with that book, how you intend to take it to the next level, and then Allstate determines whether or not, okay, well, we like that business model, let's push forward. So on top of doing that, this gentleman understand, I mean, 35 years, he grew it from nothing. So he interviewed me as well. And he made sure that, hey, I need you to understand that I've taken care of these people for 35 years. I've taken care of them, their children, and their children's children. This is the level of expectation of service they want. This is what they expect. And I need to know that you're going to deliver.
Mm,
The other book was actually grown by a gentleman that looked like this as well, but he retired, and when he sold it to a Caucasian young gentleman who moved the physical location into a
mm,
different community. And so he started adding to the book a little bit, and it started diversifying a little bit, but the bulk of it where, his business was coming from was from our community. And his reasoning for selling was because he couldn't relate.
mm.
Um,
Wow.
he didn't know how to communicate and to, just talk with the majority of his books. So he neglected it and focused on adding more to it and, and creating a comfort space for himself.
Oh, wow.
So, but when it wasn't enough and the market started changing, he wanted to sell. So I purchased that book after, reviewing and digging into it and understanding that there is a community here. There is a portion of this book that has been neglected, and they're looking and deserve an agent. So
Absolutely.
I purchased those books, and I'm gonna tell you. So the attrition, of course, there was some change. I combined the other book into the physical location the Caucasian gentleman's book because the other book, that gentleman's building had been sold.
Mm, mhm.
So it was an easy transition over Christmas holidays to go into this particular building, which the community is diversified, but the original book came from the Jackson metro area versus the suburb of Flowood where we are physically located. So a lot of the elderly people aren't driving out there. But
Mhm.
we're in an age now where everything is online,
Digital. Oh, yeah.
right? And so I knew if I took on that book, I'd need to be accessible to that community. And so when I did, I got on the phone and called these customers because they didn't have email, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
to say, hey, I'm your agent and I'll come to you. And they're like, what? You'll come? Yes, I'll come to you. You don't have to drive out here. If you need me, call me, I'll come to you. And that made a world of difference. And word of mouth,
Mhm.
they're excited. They're telling their family they got a new agent, and it's working. Now, when you talk about other agents that are in my footprint, We got a okay mix, but it's set up where the areas it's concentrated based on like how that area is built, right?
Of course.
So we're getting there. It's not a lot of us though.
So I think that that brings up, a really good point because, we are insurance professionals, we are Black insurance professionals, but that doesn't mean that we're only, equipped and qualified to work in our community. So that diversification piece, is not like we can only sell to, other, Black and brown
Hmm.
people. So I think a lot of times, and both of you had mentioned it as far as just the education level, the comfort level, the exposure to some of these other lines of business. Because most customers, especially on the personal line side, they understand the need for auto, right? Because they have to have it to
Hmm.
register, they got to have it for their lien holder, they understand homeowners insurance. But as far as having that broader conversation, the pet insurance, the life insurance, the other sorts of coverage that they need, when you bring these options to your customers, do you find that there's a pretty good take rate, or are people just kind of focused on the minimum or the status quo?
I think that it's a pretty good. They're receptive to it. I think it's the way that we present it. One of the things that I share with my customers are that, first of all, they don't know that we provide all the extra stuff. They see us as a P&C company, you know.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I have to let them know, hey, my background's financial. We do life insurance and we do investment financial services. Let's sit down and have a discussion. You Some of our folks in our community will tell you when you're talking to them about finances that I can't afford to sit down. I don't have any money, and my spiel always has been, no, you need to sit down with me. You can't go to Edward Jones. No offense. You can't go to Charles Schwab. They're not even going to listen to you. Merrill Lynch, Merrill Edge, whatever they're calling themselves, they don't want you. But you need to sit down with me because I will listen to you and I will help you develop a plan that's workable for you and your family. So I always add that. One of the things that they don't know is all the other things that we can help them with.
Mm,
I'm a financial person. Life insurance is one of the building block of financial services. You start there.
absolutely.
We can grow that. We can use that for retirement planning. I'm a financial. I love life insurance, as you can tell. We can use that for
Hmm.
retirement planning. We can use that for legacy building. We could use that for a whole array of things.
Right.
But you have to start with a conversation and you have to help our folks to understand that you need to start with something as opposed to nothing. And sometimes within our community, they feel it's not a voodoo, for lack of a better word, to ask for life insurance and to write life insurance. Sometimes they don't want to. And our role, Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, is to show them the importance of having that. Too many times things happen and they have to go to the church because they
Hmm.
don't have money to take care of that family member who needs to be buried, or they have to go and do a GoFundMe
Oh
page
my God.
because
Yes.
they don't have money for that. I show them how you can take $20 per month, approximately, and put that into something you can use for yourself and for your family. We have to learn how not to spend our money. I hate to use this word wastefully, but
Hmm.
there's things that we as a community spend money on that we should be spending on to help uh, uplift ourselves and our family and move them to that next level. And I feel like that's what my role is, to help navigate to that next
Yes.
level.
Fantastic.
I tell customers all the time when they tell I can't afford life insurance. I'm like, you can't afford not to have life insurance. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about how much you spend eating out on lunch daily. Let's talk about how much you pay to get your nails done. Let's talk about how much you pay on your hair. And I know a haircut isn't cheap these days either, you know. So I try to have real life conversations with them about the different products and umbrella plans, and how
Mm,
one of the things people, we listen to David Ramsey and all of these different people that have podcasts, and well, which one is better? Do I need whole? Do I need term? Do I, you know, and I find that when you talk to them, when you take the moment and tell them what the product actually is, educate them on it, let them make the decision, then the question isn't which is best, is which is best for you.
Absolutely.
And when we're
That's
talking about
good.
PNC, they'll come in, here in Mississippi, they talk about state minimum 25.50. That's what people hear. Oh, I want liability only and different things. Or they come in and they have a $80,000 car and they want state minimum. I'm like, do you understand what that means? And you talk to them about what those limits are and how you're going to be, if you cause an accident, you're going to be in trouble, like major
Hmm.
trouble. And you explain to them what those coverage limits mean and how you utilize them. Uh, they're appreciative of it. And now they can make an informed decision. They're not just buying something to say, I'm legal.
Right, right. And I think that, especially in underserved communities, that there's, like I said, this education need. We have so many that are underinsured, unbanked, and they're just not tapping into some of the resources that are available. Again, not getting into anything proprietary on a company basis, but do you feel that with the relationship that you have with your carrier, that they are motivated to grow their market share within our communities?
Well, they're all motivated to make money now, at the end of the day. It's about how much money they're willing to invest in the community. And fortunately and unfortunately, that relies on us
Mhm.
because there are things out there, foundations within our organizations that has funds available. It may come out on your company internal web page, and but you may have to dig for it because no one's actually telling you about it, maybe
Mhm.
you know but it's there for your taking. So as an agent, you have a responsibility to learn what's available for your community and go after it. Uh, myself right now, I find different things that are going on in the community. I partner with the Divine Nine doing different things. I'm doing like a financial roundtable in a couple of weeks with Delta Sigma Theta. They're sponsoring. Um, and we just have to network within our community, find out what the need is, where it is. Then we go match the dollars that our company
Absolutely.
that we're working for that's available to say, hey, look, you know, I'm making you money. This is where it's coming from. We need to invest in this and move forward. And it's a positive thing for everyone, all parties involved.
Absolutely. We've got a matching funds that we do with State Farm, and one of the things that I've done is I use my marketing dollars to spend in our community. I look for community groups that are underserved that I could use those dollars with, and with our matching funds, even though I, as an agency owner, may donate money, I will also do money personally so they can be matched by State Farm for them.
Wonderful. So my last, question here, and of course we'll check with the audience and then kind of move into final remarks, is really around, again, this unique positioning, because we mentioned earlier that things are getting better as far as representation. We're not necessarily on par. We're not the majority by far. When it comes to this captive space, and so what would some advice that you would have for someone who's considering moving into, a captive agency model? Like, what are some of the things that surprised you that you didn't anticipate before you got into your role?
For me, so as I told you, we take the book, we review it, drill down in it, build a business plan based on, what we want to do. For me, once I did that and I had this super business plan, then I came into the market and things changed. Blew it up.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, wait, hang on. Fortunately, my military experience allowed me to say, hey, wait, step back, let's reassess the mission, and let's go with a different plan. So I was able to do that, but it was not what I expected based on the plan I had built. But, like I said, we were able to reassess and redo our plan, and everything's working great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, I was surprised about the lack of knowledge that is out there when it comes to, let's just say, PNC life. People don't really understand the financial aspect of it, everybody, because people, they don't want to necessarily talk about finances, but the things that you buy every day, PNC, to cover your home, your car, those everyday insurance products, I was very surprised at the individuals who you look at where they are in life and stature and think they understand. I was surprised at how many people really truly don't.
And still say things like full coverage.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I had to get that in there.
I had to get it in there. I talked to an attorney the other day. She was in my book, and I said, hey, look, I noticed you have this, but we were talking, she had just had a baby, and I'm like, oh, you don't even have a life policy on yourself. We need to get something for you, we need to get something for the baby, we need to, let's talk. And she had just bought a house, we started talking about mortgage protection, all these different things, and she says, Cynthia, we really need to talk. I said, you want to come by the office? She said, well, no. I said, I'll come to you. Because
There you go.
she was embarrassed that at her statue, she's expected to know that, people from the outside looking in, but she really didn't know, and she didn't understand the things that I was mentioning to her. She was like, no one's ever communicated that to me, not this way. And I'm like, hey, girl, we'll go to lunch and we'll talk about it. And you got to meet people where they are
Yes,
and
of
make them
course.
feel comfortable. And so, yeah, I was just surprised with those little things like that.
Interesting. Surprises, Sarah, things that you didn't anticipate on this journey?
I think my biggest surprise is when I opened the agent after 47 years. He retired December 31st. I opened January 1st. State Farm will not allow a lag time. I was surprised of the lack of support on his behalf. I had an idea that he was going to be there and help me get, oriented. And I was surprised that he didn't, and that the team members that he had at that point in 2022, and I hate to say it, but it is what it is. They did not want to work for a Black female. And so with that, I had to look for all brand new people to open my agency with. So that was surprising, and to find that there were some customers who didn't want to work with me because of how I looked. They never gave me a chance. And those that did, I really appreciate them.
This has been a really insightful conversation. And again, first of all, before I forget, thank you both for your service to our country. Both of you mentioned having that military affiliation. And I just think that we always need to acknowledge that when we're aware of that. And really what you're doing now is still serving our communities. And so thank you so much for being so generous with your time, with your experience and information. If somebody wants to continue the conversation and find out more about your journey, what would be the best way for them to get in contact with you?
For me, email or reach out to me through LinkedIn. That's very good.
Yeah, for me, I am on LinkedIn as Cynthia Bailey Washington, and then you can always reach me via email at baileyAgency@allstate.com.
Wonderful. And they can meet you in New Orleans, hopefully, if you come down
Yay!
for
Yes!
our national conference, which we're super excited about.
I'm too
And
close
so
not to come, right?
Yeah, you can drive. I'm like, you're right there. So also for those of you who are on and attended, if this is something that is of value, that you definitely see a place where you have some expertise that you'd also like to share, with the NAAIA family, please do reach out to us. If you have a specific topic that you would like to hear us, dig deep into, we're still building out, some of our sessions upcoming for the remainder of the year. And so speaking of upcoming events and things, again, I just want to thank the ladies for joining today, and I'll turn it back over.
Thank you for watching this flashback episode of NAAIA. We appreciate your time and hope you found the insights valuable. Stay tuned for more enriching content. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the NAAIA community.